Hi, we're Ralph and Lonnie Diamikis back for Planetary Calendar, and this is a special monthly forecast because we're starting out a new year, so Happy New Year. Yeah. Ralph, you want to give us a little bit of an overview for January of 2026?
I would love to, especially if you have the sun, moon, or rising in Capricorn. You folks prepare to be self-indulgent because the month is starting off with Venus in Capricorn. And anytime Venus passes over these major parts of your chart, you get to be a little more indulged, and self-indulgent. Now, meteor watchers, you're going to have the quadridigit peak on the 3rd and the 4th. So if you want to get out there and really enjoy, please do. You're going to get between 60 and 100 meteors in the month. And other than that, the month we have to talk about it in detail because there's simply a lot going on.
Well, if you look at the ephemeris box, you can just see all the changes that are happening in that quick review. You want to look at that, Ralph?
Sure. Well, really, what's interesting is that it starts off with Mercury changing sign on the 1st, right? It enters Capricorn. And this is a fast-moving Mercury because Mercury's going to change again on the 20th. When Mercury's moving fast, it means all those things related to Mercury, messages, short transportation, filling out paperwork, all that stuff happens real fast. So if you have a writing project or something like that, or a composing project, or if you're an astrologer.
Any communications project.
Yeah, Mercury relates very strongly to astrologers. You can really move it forward at this time of year. I know we have some projects going on. We actually have two different book projects going on. They're little books, not big books, but we're really moving forward on them very quickly.
Well, and as Venus enters Capricorn, Mars is already there.
Right.
And he's going to be there until the 23rd when he goes into Aquarius.
Right. So Mars is a real social position. It's funny. Capricorn itself is kind of very... If you know people born with the sun in Capricorn, they're actually very interior. They're very, how do you say?
A lot of times, like especially with Capricorn rising, people say that they're shy. Yeah. They've got a very internalized view of themselves approaching the world, so they're not boisterous. Let's put it that way.
Think of what your classic grandmother. They're not someone who talk so much, but they think a lot. And when they say things, you listen because they've thought about it. And that's the Capricorn energy. But Mars in Capricorn is the social position. They call it the exalted position. It's kind of like your best friend, your colleague position. And it means that it's a position that really works well with connecting to others.
Well, so until the 17th, you're going to have Mercury, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn. Because Venus actually exits first.
Now, you Capricorns that we've told to be self-indulgent, also be careful about impulsiveness. Because when Mars passes over your sun or your rising, even your moon, but especially sun and rising, there's a tendency to be a little bit too, rambunctious, you might say. Watch out when you get to those traffic lights. That really is yellow.
Red,
it's not,
And red means stop.
And red means stop,
right.
Exactly. So be kind of careful with that. And then as you go through the month, like I said, the first week from the 1st up until the 16th, it's relatively quiet. By the way, make sure you celebrate on the 6th because that's Three Kings Day, aka Astrologer's Day. Okay, so
yeah, we didn't write that in there this time. Did we write that in there before?
Yeah, but if you're watching this, you know this now. So if we hear about celebrations,
But as we're talking about what we're writing into the calendar, I have to point out that there are some new things. The letter annotation has been changed into an asterisk, which right now in the dead of winter looks like a snowflake to me. Yes. But it will make you recognize that there is something written above that was annotated. And since we already have in the annotations what date it refers to, we don't need to double up that letter, that icon. So the asterisk looks jaunty there and was easier to fit in because we don't have to worry about sizing the font. And we have the other change about, if you look at the 10th, if you have your calendar, we have that frame around the black box, which indicates that not only is it a black box day planetarily, but it's also a long void of course. And so that is in effect for here. And I was joking with Ralph before we started to record, and I said, well, we really only have to talk about the 18th and the 19th, because we fit everything but the kitchen sink in there, and he made this really artistic looking. The 19th has this beautiful arc of planets going around that white circle day. But having said the white circle, there are 5 white circle days in January to help you navigate the bumps in the road.
Right, and something we did too is that from last year we had to change our fonts, and last year we had to use the slightly smaller font. This year we moved the size of the font up to make it more readable. Everything in the calendar is always designed around the astrology. It's not around the text. The text is easy to read. The astrology is what the astrology glyphs are, what are hard to read. So that we designed everything around there. And the reason we went to an asterisk instead of the letter was to save me stress. Because I would put all the letters in and then realize we missed something and I have to reorganize all the letters in that month. It drove me crazy. We don't want
it's just more practical, and people know when you see that asterisk, you're looking up at the top for that date.
Yeah, and it's very important. Look at the forecast. We spend a lot of time on the forecast, and this year, I did the technical stuff on the forecast, and then Lonnie did the creative stuff. And the forecasts this year are just wonderful.
Well, be kind.
Because they're much more fun.
I have Mercury in Sagittarius, so I'm a little quirky. So if you enjoy those quirky new little forecast tidbits on the upper part of the calendar, drop us a note and let us know, because we really appreciate that.
Now, something that's real interesting on the 3rd is the full moon, okay? And the full moon is at 13 degrees of the crab, right? AKA Cancer, the crab. So it's the symbol of feminine power. It's also the degree of the United States of America. It was founded on where the sun was aligned with 13 degrees of Cancer, which is one of the reasons home ownership, the crab, the shell, and our love of cars, our little shells, are so important to us. It's very, very core to the American personality. So the fact that the full moon is happening there is pretty significant. I think there's a certain sense of kind of America starting to come home to itself. Do you think?
Please?
Yes.
That sounds nice. I'll have more of that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting too, because on that day, that same day, the moon is conjunct Jupiter. Is conjunct Jupiter. And when the United States was founded, Jupiter was in the same sign of the crab. It's one of the reasons why the United States has always been kind of expansionistic. And people forget that it's the United States of America. We tend to think of ourselves as a unified organization, but in truth, it was always meant to be a confederation of independent states.
Well, and Jupiter also is generosity and so
exactly, yes.
It's a good feeling to have that back. It's like you said, it's a reset point.
Yeah, and it's also trine to the Jupiter the moon is going to be in trine to the Jupiter or the Saturn in Pisces. And the Saturn in Pisces is a really powerful position. Wherever you have Saturn in Pisces in your chart, that area is taking a lot of stress from this Saturn in Pisces. And it's funny because it's actually a position that Saturn seems to like, but it's not an easy position, I don't think. I keep having foot issues. Pisces is the feet, and I have Saturn and Pisces going through my 8th house, and I keep having foot issues.
But when you have size 17 feet, it's surprising that you don't have them all the time.
But I also have Jupiter and the crab going through my 12th house, which is the house of the feet as well. And I keep having these banging my feet. That's true. So that kind of, it's like, literally banging my feet.
Well, look ahead to January 7th, right there on Wednesday, middle of the week for you, where you get your wonderful Virgo moon to support you. And it's a great, great white circle. And if you'll note, it's really all personal planets. The moon's making great aspects to Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. And Venus and Mars are conjunct, Sun, trine, Moon. Mars is making a parallel, so that's a soft aspect to Pluto, but that's the only outlier from the personal planets. So that is a great, great day to start something or make plans for...
Or go to the spa.
of the family.
Well, I'm just saying we say in the calendar that it's great for the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo the goddess,
Right.
and Capricorn. So it's great to go to the spa and do a mud bath, don't you think?
Well, any other Virgo thing.
Exactly. Any other Virgo thing, because who else loves that stuff but Virgos, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but it's a great time to do practical stuff. It's also a great time to like visit your elders, to relate between the generations, we find. You know?
Hey, we're the elders.
Oh my gosh, we are.
Is everybody going to come visit us?
I'd hope so.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope they're going to ring the doorbell with their elbow because they're carrying a gift.
Don't come on the 10th because the 10th is a black box day with a very long void, of course.
Yes.
Squaring everything, and whatever it's
Oh my
not squaring, it's
gosh.
opposing. So
Oh, jeez.
we've got, again, personal planets involved in there: Jupiter, Mars, Venus, the Sun, and the Moon. So lay low on Saturday the 10th if you can.
Yeah, in fact, on the 10th, we write ACK. We didn't write ACK, actually, but we should have written ACK. Black box with an all-day VOC, moon, challenging aspects. And thanks to the sun and Mars opposing Jupiter, people have a hard time budging off of their opinions and positions. Expect big conflicts in the news. The next 3 days are packed with lunar aspects, so expect a sudden change of course in society. Oh. Be flexible, adjust with the times, and don't take it too personally.
Yeah, easier said than done, but
Yes.
good advice anyway.
Yes. You know, it's funny because we write these forecasts so far in advance that when we get around to it, it's like they're new to us, too.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Yeah.
They were good.
In
They
fact,
were-
in fact, when we're going to do another little segment about the upcoming year, in December, as you saw, we read the segment that we had read about the coming year, but that was written like 2 years ago, and then the one we're going to talk about was only written a year ago. So obviously, our opinions.
And you'll be able to add a little input from
Yes.
the transits that are just
Yes.
preceding the beginning of the year.
Exactly.
But looking ahead to that third week or 2.5 weeks in,
Yes.
from the 11th to the 17th, I know we're not doing weekly and daily and stuff like that, but it really is kind of a supportive week, a social week that you have to look forward to. You know, the 12th and the 13th have lots and lots of lunar aspects on there. There's not too much in the way of hard aspects going on, and then you end the week in the total opposite way that you ended the week before, with a nice white circle there
Yes.
with all your pals well supported there. There is a opposing Jupiter, but other than that, all the aspects look nice. Even Uranus is playing nice.
What's interesting is when you see a lot of, the way that the box is set up, when things are on the left side, okay, that's the lunar side. So it has a lot to do with personal stuff. Lunar is about, our personal emotions and such. When you get a lot of stuff up over the number, over the date, those are lunar aspects. So it tends to be a very social day. So we always say, you see a lot of stuff up there, don't sit in your room. Don't stay home. Go out. People will want to engage.
Well, the moon's on the left, but
Yeah.
the aspects are on the top of the number if they're lunar
Exactly.
aspects.
And lunar actually takes up a bigger part of the block, because the voids, of course, are on the bottom, right? And the lunations, the sun, the lunations, the new full, they're on the top.
As she should.
Exactly.
Because doesn't the moon affect us the most
Yes.
personally on a day-to-day
Exactly.
basis? Absolutely.
And it's set up that way for that reason.
And if you're not sure, just look at the 18th, Saturday the 18th. We had to do everything. Sorry, we had to size the font down a little bit to get all of those lunar aspects
Yes.
up there in a row. But thank you so much for your suggestion about putting the aspect and the planetary glyph up there, because that's so helpful for all of us. So we listen to you. You make the calendar better.
Yes.
You make harder work for poor Ralph
Yes.
sometimes, but we try to implement your suggestions whenever we can.
I do the typesetting.
And
yes.
look how creative he was on the 19th. I mean, oh my
gosh.
goodness,
It's a piece of art.
it really is. It really
Exactly.
is. So if you don't have your calendar, what's the matter you?
Exactly. And so you got the new moon on the 18th, and you got the sun changing sign into Aquarius on the next day, and the Mercury changing sign the next day. It's just one thing after another.
And then Mars changes sign on the 23rd at the end of the week.
Exactly.
So That's a rock and roll week. And if you add in the Saturday when Venus entered Aquarius on the 17th, that first part of that, you've got 7 days where there's 3 planetary changes. It's interesting.
Yeah, when you see a lot of stuff on the right side, okay, where there's, those are the aspects between the different planets and between the sun and the different planets. When you have stuff there, things are changing direction. These are big players, and there's major thematic changes as compared to the other ones are personal. These are thematic. These are social.
Well, and interestingly enough, this is the new moon. So Venus changes just before the new moon. New moons signify a towing off point for a new beginning. So if you're going to be changing the way you do things, the way you look at things, the people who surround you, different things that you can trigger at that new moon, isn't it nice that all these other planets are also changing the way they operate to help you figure out what direction you want to move into? They're going to be moving into Aquarius, so that's a very social, connected to your community kind of sign. So this new moon is heralding a coming out of sorts for you if you take advantage of it, and you can have a new way of dealing with the outer world.
Yeah, Aquarius traditionally among agricultural communities was the time when everyone would go out, like if it was a dry crop culture like the United States, which is wheat. This was the time of year when the community would go out and they'd clean the fields. They'd put everything back in order. By this point, all of the leaves had blown off of the last year's plants, and they would go out and they would, put everything back in order. But they would do it as a community. So people would come out in the cold and they would work together. And then in the Asian countries, this is the time of year when they go to the rice paddies, which is the rice fields, and they would drain them and then fix them and then refill them, because the plants are at the most dormant point. So it's a community effort. And what's interesting here is that you have 3 planets all entering Aquarius at the same time, right? The water pourer, the irrigator. Mercury is one of them. And Mercury is in the colleague sign. They call it the exalted sign. So it's a real brilliant position. So when Mercury goes into that sign, it's going to be a fantastic time for communications with other people. And Mercury has already been moving fast. But it's been moving fast in practical, hardworking Capricorn. Now it's moving in fast in a position where it's much more engaging. It's much more focused on the outer world. So once again, find ways to be connected, because you're going to have these 3 planets in Aquarius, and realize that when you go out to Saturn and out there, all those planets are either in fire signs or air signs. So the big dynamic on the globe right now is very much out there and open. People, the fact that what's going on here in the United States, people know what's going on, and they know what's going on in Europe about what's going on here. We know what's happening in Europe from the United States. There's a very big sense of global communication right now, probably more so than any time in our recorded history, and that is going to be very much enhanced at that period of time.
Right. And so when we move on to the final week, we're looking at another planetary change, but this one is kind of interesting because Neptune is entering Aries, which Neptune is a modern ruler of Pisces. So it's kind of appropriate there. Neptune in Aries, that's very interesting. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. There are people who say that Neptune is a planet that denotes government, because Neptune is something that you can't really see. You can visualize it, but you can't go there and put your hands on it. And that's something that can describe the government, because where is the government? It's like everywhere and nowhere all at once, right?
Yes.
So with it coming into Aries, Aries is kind of like okay, show me. Let me touch it. Let me figure it out. So I'm thinking that this could trigger, of course, that the outer planets affect the outer world.
Yes.
So it could trigger a new sense of involvement of young people in sort of government, or having new kinds of ideas, not necessarily about the government, but that's one of the things that that Neptune can signify. And these new things, but definitely young people, because Aries is the baby sign of the zodiac.
And then next month, Saturn is going to enter Aries. So now you're going to have Saturn and Neptune closely conjunct at the beginning of Aries, the spring, like the spring point, right? And we already had that, and then they both retrograded out, and now they have returned.
And Saturn and Neptune have been doing that little dance, handshake, back off in the corner. It's almost like a square dance or something like that. But also, when you add in the Saturn involvement to the Neptune, that sounds even more like government to me.
Exactly.
It could also be other structures in your life, but the one structure that guides everybody's life is the government.
Exactly. And so, and this was one thing, when we forecast that there were going to be a lot of young people coming into big positions, like positions that we saw on a global scale. That's one of the reasons why we said this. We saw that this Saturn, Neptune. Neptune has a lot to do also with energy. The time when Saturn was discovered, it was the time when there was a tremendous amount of chemical research going on. It was the time when the first petroleum engines were starting to be developed and things like that. If you go back to like the 1700s when Uranus was discovered, that was the time during a lot of electrical research. If you remember Benjamin Franklin, famous astrologer and almanac maker, our beloved Ben, did a lot of his research on electricity.
If Ben had fonts, do you think he would have made a calendar like this?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
He would subscribe to this one. He would definitely subscribe to this one. So.
Well, I love that white circle on the 28th.
Exactly.
I don't know why. It makes me want to go in an airplane. I mean, it's all air signs, the trines with all that Aquarius and all that Gemini moon. It's just kind of a very air thing. And so with all that air, you'll be the thinker of great thoughts, ideas. Think about, be very aware of what ideas come across your desk or into your mind on that day, because they could be very interesting.
And also realize that Uranus, which has been, hanging out at the last degrees of Taurus, it's going to enter Gemini in late April. So now you're going to have Gemini, the symbol of young people. The original symbol, we think of it as the twins, the kids. But the original symbol actually were baby goats, which, if you've ever been around baby goats, are incredibly cute and rambunctious.
You can read more about that in our book, Reclaiming Astrology from the Patriarchy, because he likes to throw these things in there and thinks that everybody read it, but maybe you didn't.
Well, the thing that's funny is we really got into how the signs were changed. That was not the book we were writing. The book we were writing was about the geometry, because, we're feng shui practitioners, we're geomancers, we think of geometry in a very practical way. We think of it in terms of, it's not lines on a piece of paper to us, sacred geometry. It's how places are arranged, how properties are arranged.
How people fit into spaces.
Exactly.
Right.
So we were looking at what happened to the geometry. The astrological geometry was broken, and over the years we had figured out how it was broken. So we started writing a book about fixing the astrological geometry. And then as we were doing the research, we figured out, this is why it was broken.
Exactly.
And realized they had changed the signs at the same time, which is part of our next book.
So you know what that means, right? That means that you have the fonts.
Yes.
So you can write another book.
Exactly. So, and
we have all the fonts.
Exactly. In fact, the symbol for Scorpio, which is like this, which is a little arrow, and they put the arrow down low like that, it actually is supposed to be like this and go up, and because it's supposed to be a falconer holding a falcon up on their hands, not a scorpion's tail.
Right.
Just a little point there for you.
So if you have a sign that has made you feel maligned at times, you might be interested in reading that set the record straight.
Now, when Mars goes into Aquarius on the 23rd, okay, once again, if you have whatever you have in Aquarius is going to get activated. If you have the sun, moon, and rising there, watch out. Once again, you're going to feel more impulsive. But also, when Mars goes into Aquarius, people are going to become more sensitive to electromagnetic fields. Okay, and we are surrounded by them these days between the electrical lights, all of our electronics. They become more sensitive. It might be very important at that time to supplement with more magnesium, which gets the muscles to relax. If you have devices to help neutralize that, there are a lot of devices out there. You can neutralize these electromagnetic fields. You need to more actively protect yourself from those fields at that time, especially if you have a lot of things in air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. They're even more sensitive to it. But this is a big issue. A lot of problems people are having these days have to do with the electromagnetic fields and their devices disrupting their own fields. Remember, our nervous system's electrical.
Well, and what are we? We're sitting here with how many devices around us?
Exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And the camera and the lights and
And I took my magnesium this morning.
Did you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, really. There you go. Oh, you were asking them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if there's one, we're naturopathic doctors. We can't really not mention the gorilla in the room. But, if you're not taking magnesium and you're feeling stiff or your shoulders are up to your neck or you got aches, stiff joints or anything like that, take your magnesium. Yeah, and other things that actually help pull that stuff out of the system are, for instance, kelp is very good for chelating the electromagnetic field issues out of the body. Black walnut's also very good for that. Black walnut's also very good for helping to clear out any type of little invaders in the system, which is always a good idea this time of year. But these are things that protect your body from the electromagnetic fields as well. But like I said, keeping them further away from you, like never holding a phone up to your head. Use the speakerphone. That's what it's there for.
Keep your computers, if you have a tower computer, move it further away from you. Go out and you can buy Faraday cloth and put it on some foam core and put it between you and the main computer, as a protection. It's inexpensive. I mean, Faraday cloth is very reasonable. It'll deliver to your door. Now, I think January is going to be a really upbeat month in many ways. I like it. Talk to me on January 31st and see how we feel. Yes. Well, I think it's
it looks great to me.
I think it's going to be a very exciting month.
Exactly. All that Aquarius, that has to be exciting.
Yeah, and also that whole concentration of planetary aspects and planets changing sign in quick succession from the 17th, really within 7 days for the Mars, and then 8 or 9 days with the Neptune. Neptune admittedly is an outer planet. We don't tend to feel it quite so impactfully, but those personal planets, you do feel up close and personal.
You feel the outer planets over time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's all personal planets. Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, real quick succession.
I think my keyword for January is hopeful.
Yes.
So come see us at planetarycalendar.com. Join us on YouTube, Planetary Calendar Astrology. Yep. Happy New Year.
And also, I should mention, we are now putting these monthly forecasts up on our website under the forecast tab. Because why not? Until next time, follow the calendar, take your magnesium, and be well.